The Order of the Sith. The dark side of the Force is host to many mysteries in the Star Wars universe, some which would be considered unnatural. With very little coverage in the overall Star Wars cinematic canon, it can be hard to understand what the Sith really are. Palpatine, Maul, Dooku, Ventress, Grievous, Savage, and finally Vader. This is the entire dark side catalog we really have in the cinematic Star Wars universe. This is, admittedly, a tiny amount of people compared to the hundreds to thousands of Jedi we see throughout the years, though this is not without reason, though. Long ago, the Sith had a much larger following, but were plagued with greed, selfishness, and infighting, which eventually led to the near extinction of the Sith Order. Once there were hundreds, now there was one.
Do you know who I am?
Yes, Darth Bane, the ancient Sith Lord, you are.
And know why I am not forgotten?
Created the rule of two, you did.
The Sith killed each other, victims of their own greed. But from the ashes of destruction, I was the last survivor. I chose to pass my knowledge on to only one. I created a legacy so resilient that now you come before me.
The Order of the Sith would be small with the creation of the Rule of Two, however, alive, if not only for the sole purpose of passing on their knowledge and power. But knowledge and power is all the Sith know. As in their mantra, it goes like this. Peace is only a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. And through victory my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. Through their own mantra, you can see that the only things they really care about are passion, strength, power, victory, and the freedom from the chains that bind them. You see, Sith are not like Jedi at all. They do not resist temptation. They give in to their desires, their fears, their greed, and most certainly their hatred. It is not made clear exactly why it is that the Sith feels so compelled to do this, but I may have an explanation as to why. You see, the Sith believe that they experience freedom through worldly accomplishments and achievements, whether this means through the murder of a Jedi, becoming strong enough to destroy their master, or gaining reputation and notoriety through conquering of land and resources. This is the way of the Sith, after all. But perhaps there's a deeper reason why they feel this way. You see, during Season 6 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, Master Yoda goes on a journey of self-discovery in order to gain more insight into the ways of the Force, specifically in order to maintain his consciousness after death. Keep in mind that up until a few months into the Clone Wars, and even around the time that Yoda went on this journey, the Jedi vehemently believed that when the time came for them to leave this world, they would essentially return to the universe. In a manner of speaking, the Jedi are one with the universe, and the universe is with them. They are practitioners of the Force, and the Force is the life essence of all living things in the Star Wars universe. However, the idea of actually being cognitive or retaining any sort of self after death was just simply inconceivable at the time. During this journey, however, Yoda had to go through many trials, one of which required him to go to the Sith homeworld of Moraband. While exploring, Yoda encounters several illusions that show long since dead Sith warriors. You saw one earlier in this video. However, the one that I'm about to show you gives us, as the viewer, a lot more insight into the Sith belief system.
There is no life after death. Only nothingness awaits you, Jedi. Your fear feeds our hunger for power. They will know you are here. We will tell them. You will die and be nothing.
You see, despite the fact that the Jedi did not fully believe in consciousness after death, there was at least a higher purpose for their deaths to exist. Something to do after they've passed on. The Sith, however, do not believe that. For a Sith, all of their accomplishments, anything they've ever striven to do, only matters in the life they are given. There is nothing else after that. Once you die, it is the ultimate failure of a Sith, because essentially, if you have not passed on a legacy, or earned some kind of reputation, then it's all gone, because there's no second chances, there's no legend. Whereas at least with the Jedi, you become one with the universe you've been practicing to wield your entire life. So even if you don't defeat any Sith Lords, even if you've only trained one youngling, maybe if you trained none at all, at least there's something. Whereas with Sith, there's simply nothing. This might just explain why it is that Sith seem to be so much harder to kill. I mean, compare Qui-Gon's mere stab wound to Darth Maul being literally cut in half and left for dead for 10 years, and Darth Vader being dismembered and nearly burned to charred remains, and yet those two still lived, but Qui-Gon died. I think Jedi are just naturally more prone to accepting their fates, whereas Sith, there's nothing. If they were to accept their fates, they would lose out on anything they could possibly gain, or they essentially just lose everything. There's nothing to keep for a Sith, because everything only exists in this life. Other than that, your purpose, your accomplishments, your pride, your earnings, your reputation, it's all just gone when you leave, unless you have an apprentice. Or you just haven't learned all that you have yet to learn. There's lots of pride that goes into the Sith ideology. But as is normal for a Sith, so is there a lot of fear as well. Plenty of it to go around, between the fear of death, the fear of meaninglessness, and the fear of not being important or memorable, or not creating a legacy of your own. It's as if all this struggle for power, land, resources, reputation, it's almost like a front for all the fears they have. Maybe those chains refer to their weakness deep down. Weaknesses they wish they could get rid of. It's a bit out there. They do a lot of horrible things, but perhaps that's what references the chains. Perhaps through the unlocking of abilities in the Force, they can cheat the death they feel has no purpose for them in life. Since they strongly believe there's no life after death for a Sith, well, maybe perhaps the seeking of power can reverse the lacking of mortality. Every Sith Lord has a different reason for becoming one. I couldn't sit here and explain all 6 of their reasonings for becoming a Sith Lord. Some, like Palpatine, are just destined to be evil. Some do it out of the goodness of their hearts and just become corrupt along the way, like with Anakin. Or in Darth Maul, he knew no other way because he was trained from a young age to know nothing else. However, amongst all these separate mental reasons why they believe in starting down the path of the dark side, the dark side by itself has a bit of corruptive magic to it. And I see no other better example than in the Mortis arc with the Ones, and specifically the Sun, representative of all things dark in Star Wars. We have just been over the ideological parts of the Sith Order. Now let's get into the dark side as a whole. During the Mortis arc with the Ones, the Son is treated as if he had some kind of crippling illness that he could not control. The daughter even verbatim says he cannot help it, almost implying as if it's some kind of burden that none of them have, but they respect him for holding on to it as part of the balance of the Force that is incrementally important to keep.
Well, perhaps I am
Tired of waiting! I hate you! We will destroy the Sith
And the Jedi.
so cold. It's ironic, my sister. You were the only one I truly loved.
Jedi have brought me the dagger, and you have brought yourself. Now, Father,
You will die.
Father,
no! What have you done? It did not have to be this way!
Please, don't die.
I always knew there was good in you.
But the most important thing of the Son's betrayal during the Mortis arc is the ricochet between his highs and his lows. He willingly helped the father and the daughter with their test of Anakin Skywalker in order to see if he was the chosen one. Yet he also orchestrated and planned out this murder of his father and battling it out with his sister in order to just simply leave the planet, and seemingly for no other reason other than just wanting to leave. And yet, after completing these goals, he ricochets to the other end where he's seemingly regretful and depressed about his actions. It's almost as if he wasn't himself when he committed these atrocities. But also keep in mind that this isn't just some ordinary Sith. This is a celestial being that represents the dark side as a whole. What does this mean for the bigger picture of the Sith and other dark side users if the seemingly biggest representation of all of them is this juxtaposition between depression and uncontrollable anger and such? Because on the other side, the daughter seems to be just a representation of serenity and peace, which is a very simple, almost one-line thing. Whereas the brother, the son, essentially represents everything negative. Sadness, anger, guilt, regret, anything else along those lines, he represents, whereas she represents something far simpler. And with all that, with the Son out of the way, with the larger Sith Empire we have in the Star Wars lore, the biggest tragedy of all of the Sith is the fact that in the Star Wars lore, they're not legitimate at all. See, Sith don't make their red lightsabers the way that a normal Jedi would go to Ilum and make his crystal. A Sith essentially just kills another Jedi and bleeds their crystal and makes it theirs. So we have a mix of people who are both possessed and or corrupted by the dark side, with the second fact that they don't even have their own kyber crystals to make their weapons. They have to steal them from other Jedi warriors. And then 3, they don't even get to retain their consciousness after death. As far as we know, we don't even know if they go towards the greater cosmic force like the Jedi do. Essentially, a Sith is a husk of a man who is stuck between their desires and the will and pull of the corruptive nature of the dark side, while also not being legitimate in any normal way. They are essentially a bastardization of the Jedi Order in all aspects. They are slaves to their urges, and very little can be done against it other than to turn back towards the light. But with all that being said, this is the tragedy of being a Sith. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you, always.